My name is TDavis, and the research that I am conducting, my dissertation title is Teachers' Perceptions of Their Practices Related to Implementing a PBIS Plan in the Intermediate Grade Levels. This research was important to me because I am currently a teacher in the intermediate grade levels. My presentation will be looking at the background of PBIS and the relationships of teacher perceptions. I will also be looking at the justification of why I felt this research should be conducted, the central research question for guiding the study, as well as the 5 sub-questions used to guide the data collection and selecting the methods used. The data will be discussed as well as the methods used in the study. I will also be discussing the anticipated results of what I feel the results will reveal after the study is completed, the relevance of the research, why I felt the research was important, not only for me as an intermediate grade level teacher, but for the study site and for the academic community, as well as the limitations faced during the research and in the literature review. And looking at the background, first looking at PBIS. The term PBIS stands for positive behavioral interventions and support. It is a framework for applying a continuum of evidence-based practices to improve academic and social outcomes in the school. In the study, I will be referring to Title I. Title I is for schools who have a large number or percentage of poor students who receive federal aid, i.e., free or reduced lunch. Intermediate grade levels in this study refers to grades 3 through 5th grade. And teacher perception is that subjective judgment of teachers in reference to students' behaviors. So when looking at the background, the PBIS framework is intended to be implemented as a preventive measure. When it is used effectively in school, it presents a decreased number of problematic behavior, and it increases engagement, time for lessons, and improves the safety and the perception of safety in the schools. Prior to PBIS, schools were using punitive discipline to address behaviors for students. There does exist a relationship through studying and reviewing the literature and going through the literature review. There does exist a relationship between the teacher's perceptions and how the teachers actually practice implementing those practices. In looking over the literature review, there was limited research available in looking at implementing PBIS plans and the teacher's perception of that implementation at the intermediate grade level. Why do I feel that this research is important? You looking at the theory of social cognitive theory, it shows that the environment for which we are functioning at this school and implementing PBIS is an environment of which it is a social, personal, and a behavioral environment, which leads to the social cognitive theory background for this research. Teachers' perceptions of their practices based on those perceptions of how they feel that they are implementing their practices. Teachers' perceptions have a strong influence on student behavior and therefore leads into student academics. The study will be looking not only at problematic behavior, but also at addressing those students with normal developmental behaviors that may distract from academic learning, and how teachers can improve their perspective of their practices used for that through the pre-service training. It would help the teachers to be more effective in their practices. And through the study, we will be able to identify what those effective practices will look like. The benefit of this research to the study site is that it will provide the school with a pre-service training design to implement school-wide and throughout all pre-service training for years to come. It will help to provide an understanding of PBIS plan, and for those teachers who do understand the PBIS plan, it will help them to grow and develop in their processes and their practices because it is an ongoing relationship and not just a set design. It will also provide the teachers with a follow-up from the pre-service training by providing more training throughout the years. And it will meet the training needs of teachers to be more effective and to function in a growth mindset. The gap in the research of looking at intermediate grade levels, this research will be able to close that gap and looking at the intermediate grade levels as well as Title I schools. The research question, the central research question is how are teachers' perceptions of their practices related to implementing a PBIS plan impacted by a pre-service training? So this is the central guiding research question for the dissertation. Also, there were 5 sub-questions that I used in the research to guide how I collected data and what methods was used for the research. The first question is how will participants be updated on procedures and processes of the PBIS plan? So throughout the implementation of the PBIS plan, the research will go for 4 weeks and teachers will be able to receive feedback after their first post-test survey and interviewing process, and again at the end of the 4 weeks. The second sub-question is, will pre-service training change teachers' perceptions of their practices when implementing behavior plan? So this question was able to help to set up how would I go about to see and test those results and have evidence to support if there was a change, and if it existed, what was the change as in reference to a numerical figure. The third sub-question is how will participants be trained in implementing a PBIS plan? This guided the development of the pre-service training, what information or data was needed prior to the pre-service training in order to design a pre-service training that meets the needs of the teachers. The fourth sub-question was, what motivates participants to implement the plan? So through collecting the data, it will be able to reveal what is the motivation behind teachers actually buying into and implementing effectively the PBIS plan. And the fifth sub-question that guided the study was, will participants be more prepared in the classroom with implementing the PBIS plan compared to what their perception was in their implementation of the PBIS plan last year in the 2015-2016 school year? So the data would have to be designed in order for me to test that to see if there was a change in their perception prior to that pre-service training. And looking at the data, the study site school employs 32 teachers. Of the 32 teachers, there are 14 of those teachers who are intermediate grade level teachers or specialization teachers who work and interact with the intermediate grade level students, and therefore using purposeful selection for addressing the intermediate grade level concerns for the study. I have the prediction that the 14 teachers will participate in the research, but all 32 teachers were recruited. The expectation is that 14 will actually enroll in the study. The teachers will receive an email invitation inviting them to participate in the research and attend an introduction meeting. If they attend the introduction meeting and they feel they want to participate in the research study, then they will be provided with a consent form, which would detail out the research questions, the sub questions, the expectations of their participation in the study, and to explain that this is a voluntary participation of which no one will receive pay or any special privileges. And at any time during the study, if they choose to withdraw and discontinue their involvement in the study, there will be no penalty and they have the right to do so at any time. The consent form also provides the participants with the safeguards that I would take with their information of how I would keep their information confidential and how that information will be secured on a secure computer with an encrypted code. The methods used for the research is the focus group. So at the start of the research in the focus group, they will have a focus group where we will discuss, the teachers will discuss, and I will be taking field notes during the discussions. And the teachers will follow that meeting up with a pre-test survey. And in the pre-test survey, it is going to be a blind survey, and they will be conducted using the electronic survey software provided by the university. After the information is gathered through the survey and the focus group meeting, the teachers will receive an invitation for a 15-minute interview. The interviews will be audio recorded, and I will take field notes. As soon as the audio recordings have been transcribed and the teachers have used member check-in to ensure that what I have recorded as a summary from the interview is actually their intentions of what was stated during the interview process. After they have checked that for accuracy, the audio recordings will be immediately deleted. After the focus groups and the pre-test surveys and interviews, then the pre-service training will be designed that will be based off of the information gathered from the pre-test survey and the interview data all combined together to address the needs that have been identified through collecting that data. After the pre-service training has been provided to the teachers will have 4 weeks of implementation of those practices that they have taken away from the pre-service training and will return back for a final focus group meeting of which they will complete their post-test survey, which will also be conducted as a blind survey and provided to the teachers through electronic software. And looking back at the field notes will not be blind, only the surveys will be blind. And looking at the field notes from the interviews, the teachers will be provided with a pseudonym, which only I will have access to the Excel spreadsheet on my secure computer that is encrypted, identifying what participant is associated with that pseudonym. So only the pseudonyms will be recorded on the interview notes and the field notes. The anticipated results from this study is that after completing the pre-test and the post-test, that the pre-test scores show that teachers' perceptions are lower and that the end post-test results are higher, and it is due to showing the perception increase through attending the pre-service training and focus groups. The relevance of this research and the methods used for the research is to identify weaknesses of previous pre-service training and also to identify if there exists any weaknesses in the pre-service training that was designed after the pre-test and after the interviews. If there was no increase in teacher perception, then to look back at the pre-service design to see if there was an area of weakness. The purpose of the pre-service is to enhance teachers' training and to help them to develop in their effectiveness of their implementation. Because classroom management is necessary in order for teachers to provide effective instruction. It is important for the intermediate grade levels teachers to gather the information from this study because it's going to provide them with an effective classroom management practices to address the behaviors and to be able to continue instruction in the classroom. The benefit for the administrators is they will have reduced office referrals for students. They will have a safe learning environment and a safe school climate. The students will benefit from this study in being able to remain in the classroom by having their behavior provided with intervention, modifications to continue on with the instruction so that the student does not lose time by being written up with the referral and sent down to the office. Therefore, they lose instructional time, which could also lead to lower academic performance because of the missed instruction. It also allows other students to function in a safe learning environment and to receive instruction throughout the school day with minimum or to no distractions. It is beneficial for the parents that they will be able to not receive any phone calls during the day while they may be at work or doing other activities, and to know that their students are being cared for, the students are well behaved, and they will be able to see the results of that through the academic accomplishments and social development of their child. The relevance also looks at in going through the collecting of the data using the methods of the study and the focus groups to identify if there are trends. And looking at the focus group meeting and collecting the data, we'll be able to identify are there trends that exist in the pre-service design for intermediate grade levels. With that being said, are there specific STEMs that were on the survey that did not show an effective outcome for the intermediate grade levels and therefore should not be a part of the pre-service design for addressing those needs at that grade level? The limitations that were faced in this research was that some schools in the research they were able to hire behavioral coaches, behavior managers, and they were able to provide training throughout the year. So in looking at this research, and part of the outcome is to look at ways to implement some of those methods in the study site school. Pre-service schedule over the 6 days. There are only 6 days of pre-service training for teachers who are participating in the research at the study site. The teachers also have to attend other professional development, curriculum instruction, evaluation design, and ed camp over the 6 days. So the limitation of being able to effectively meet with the teachers, provide training, and be more effective is limited to the amount of time provided over the 6 days. The methods, and looking at my discussion of my research, the specific methods that I selected was surveys. Why did I select surveys? It is a quantitative study, and therefore surveys were used to prompt teachers' thinking. And it was easy for me to construct the STEMs because of using the Likert rating scale. Interviews were selected as an opportunity to give teachers the time to voice their opinion and to be expand on what they may have been thinking when they were taking the pre-test survey. And now when they're probed with the list of probing questions I have to engage the teachers and participants in the interview to allow them to expand on their thoughts from those pre-service surveys. The focus group allows for teachers to collaborate with each other on addressing their concerns and their needs at the intermediate grade level with their like peers. It allowed them to have a voice in what they feel about their practices and to draw in more ideas and gather research on how they can be more effective. The expected outcome is that through all the focus group discussions, the interviews, the pre-service training, I expect to see an increase in the teacher's perception of their practices as well as an effective classroom implementation of the PBIS plan throughout the intermediate grade levels, which later flow on into school-wide initiatives, and that the teacher's perception with the resources they are provided through the pre-service training gives them the confidence to increase their perceptions and be more effective in the classroom. Questions that you might have for me after listening to my presentation may be the first question you might have is what has the research, what research are you using to guide how you design or create the pre-service design? In my dissertation, the research looked at the works of Wong and Wong, Smith, Baker, Jones, and they have a lot of research on classroom management practices and what has been used through the PBIS framework and implemented in classroom, and it has shown success levels as well. So that is one of the research base that is going to be behind the design of the pre-service training. Another question that you may have after listening to the research is, what will I do with the results if it's going to benefit the school site? So what I plan to do with my results is after I have gathered all the data, and I will type up a summary of the results, and that being numerical and through a summary in my interpretation and what was derived from the pretest and the post-test, the difference in the pretest and post-test. And I will schedule an appointment with the school administration and sit and discuss this material with them after the research has been completed. Once again, in securing the safeguards for the teachers and participants of the study is to ensure that no information is linked or provided to the administration of who stated what. All information will be presented as a collection of what the intermediate grade levels teacher and specialization teachers presented during the research study. And the third question you might have would be, how is this going to affect the school environment? My expectation is that the teachers will feel that they have a voice now and they will be more open to voicing their concerns, even if a pre-service training is not designed immediately and they are not provided with training throughout the year. They have the feeling of openness. Their perception is that the administration is open to their concerns and that they are looking for ways to improve the school and therefore feel more open to go and present their issues and concerns to administration to address any concerns with how they feel about implementing their practices and therefore increasing students' behavior, the school environment, and the teacher's perception and buy-in into the PBI's plan at the school study site. Thank you.